welcome to Gringo Life Brazil. My name is Michel. I'm a retired American living in Sao Paulo. Today, you don't want to miss this video because I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. I've been here approximately 1 year, and I want to go over the move, the challenges, and the future. So stick around and watch the video, like and subscribe. Welcome back. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. How did I get here? In 2023, I retired from my full-time job as an Abbott field service engineer after 23 years. At the time, I was living in Florida, and I had vacationed in Georgia in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And this is an important part of why I'm bringing this up, because I went there to a vacation, and I really loved it. I loved the nature, and I said, man, I would really love to live here when I retire. So what did I do when I retired? I moved there, but I didn't do any kind of really looking into the place. I wasn't really thinking outside the box, right? I was like, I'm retired, I'm not working, I'm gonna enjoy the nature, the hiking. Once I got there, beautiful area, Blairsville, Georgia, population 700, an hour and a half north of Atlanta. So after a while though, it just started like, I started not to like it because it was no longer a vacation, right? It was real. Lived there about maybe a year and a half, was going through some personal things, and I had met my current wife through social media. We talked for about 6 months um, on the phone, on WhatsApp, doing video calls. Now, when I say talk, it's a little tricky because my current wife doesn't speak English, and of course, I don't speak Portuguese. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I decided to come out and meet her in September of 2024. I came out for 1 week. We met. I met her family. I met her kids. And then I went back. I came back again in November for my birthday. Had a great celebration. That's when I was introduced to the Brazilian traditional birthday song that is really, really energetic, you know. I came back to the United States, and then I came back in December through January, New Year's. Now, the part I didn't bring up was my, at the time, 87-year-old mother was living with me. So when I made this decision to move to Brazil, there was two key factors. One, I had to bring my mom because I wasn't going to leave her in the U.S. in a nursing home. And number two, I have two dogs, and I'm an avid dog lover. The dog lovers were no deal if I couldn't bring them to Brazil. In January, I decided to make the move. I was going to do it. I shipped the dogs, and then I came over. So a little bit of the challenges, right? The language barrier. It's a big challenge. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, where I live, and I live in so you have Sao Paulo State, and within the state, just like any other state in the US, you have different cities. Sao Paulo City has 11, I believe it's around 11 million people in the city where I live. So I live in Sao Paulo, Sao Paulo. So I'm in the city of Sao Paulo. So shipped my dogs here, got here, and like I said, through the courtship and actually coming here, the language barrier is definitely a problem if you're thinking about moving to Brazil. Now, you can learn Portuguese. I have a excellent professor that I have a online 1 hour lesson every week, and I have been doing that. And I'm starting to finally see some progress. Of course, I've immersed myself into this culture because I'm married to a Brazilian woman. She has 6 kids. Some of the kids speak a little bit of English, but we've really heavily relied on the translator. But through my Portuguese classes, I'm really starting to understand some of the words, how to put phrases together. The translator has been a godsend. So, of course, you can use your smartphone translator, right? You can go buy a standalone translator, which I have bought this online, and this is, I think, the third one I've had. It's rechargeable, or you can go with the earbuds translators. Now, I'm gonna say something about this. I saw this advertised online, and the way it was advertised is both couples had these earbuds in their ears, right? You put it in your ear, and they were talking, and they're like, "Oh wow, she understands what I'm saying, this, that, and the other." Well, the reality is this earbud works through an app in the smartphone. So I've been learning Portuguese. It's coming along. Actually, my wife gets very thrilled when I say something. She's so excited. She's like, "Oh." But at the end of the day, I'm a gringo. That's what they call Americans here. So my Portuguese will always sound like a gringo. So some of the challenges with the language would be, for instance, going to the grocery store, even buying gas. I didn't buy gas by myself for a long time because I didn't know what to say. Now here in Brazil, all the gas stations are full service. So of course you have to interact with them. Those are little nuances, but even going to the grocery store, the cash registers have a script per se. So when you walk up to the cash register, they usually ask you for your CPF number if you want to give it. That's a yes or no. Now the CPF is an identifying number that you'll get. You don't get it automatically, but you need to have it if you decide to move here. The CPF, it's not a social security number, but that's kind of like the best description I can make. It kind of tracks your purchases. You need it in order to get to the free health care. And certain things, you have to have a CPF number. Grocery shopping, no. You just say no. But here's the thing. How do you even know they're asking for your CPF? You might hear CPF. At least in Sao Paulo, only 1% of Brazilians speak English. Now, there's other areas in the interior that they call it, that there's more mix of Europeans and Americans and whatnot, that there's more English speaking. Other areas like Rio de Janeiro, where there's a lot of tourism, there's more English speaking. Because when you come here and you have a vacation, you're like, "Oh, this is great. The food is great. The dancing's great. The atmosphere's great. The vibe is great." But you really gotta think about that mental transition to move to Brazil, because it is tough. I'm still struggling sometimes because you start to feel like an outsider. And I really understand now the challenges of immigrants coming to the US, not knowing the language, trying to just adapt to everything, because that's basically what I've been doing for the last year and continue to do. The bureaucracy here is top level. I can't even explain to you how bad the bureaucracy is here. And it's really more involved with the government type things that you need to do. The people are great. The people are friendly. I haven't really run into anybody that realized I was an American and started acting differently towards me. It's actually like you're, I'm trying to think of the word, like you're kind of special in a sense. Banking, right? Here, everybody uses their phone to pay. I mean, you can use your credit, so you can use your credit card, okay, anywhere. But the experience that I had with my bank and my credit card is, a lot of times I use my credit card here, especially with a lot of the vendors, like say in the mall or whatnot, and it would get flagged as potential fraud. So I was constantly had to call the bank and approve the purchases, right, to unlock it. After dealing with that a lot, I contacted somebody in one of the social media groups that I'm a part of for expats that live in Brazil, and I got a non-resident bank account. Now, what happens with a non-resident bank account? You can transfer your money from the US to the non-resident bank account. It's converted into reals, right, which is what they pay for here. And now I can actually use my phone and use what they call PIX, PIX, which is a payment system. It's similar to It's the same thing as Apple Pay, but it's called Pix, and it's connected directly to your bank. Works great. Everybody accepts Pix here. I can do transfers to my wife or to the kids through my bank now with the phone. Apple Pay works some places, but I haven't had much luck with it. So like I said, since I have the non-resident bank account, I transfer everything here and I use a Pix. When I moved here a year ago, the real, since we're talking about banking, was almost 6 reals to $1. 6 reals to $1. So I was bringing my American dollars here and I was increasing it by almost 6 times. This is in December 2024. And in the year of 2025, it stayed up high, you know, not quite at 6, but it was high. Beginning of the year, dropped a little bit. And recently, as of this video, the real has hit an all-time low. It's at 4.9, I think, right now. I'm not exactly sure, but it dropped where my eyebrows kind of raised, right? Because when you move here, you're kind of like, oh, I'm going to rent this apartment, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, because the exchange rate's so great. Well, now it's dropped. It's still good, meaning you're still ahead with the exchange rate, but it kind of like, wow, what if it kept dropping? It kept dropping. What would I do? Mental status a little bit, because I think it's important. Whether you're dealing with a mental issue now, as we're speaking, and you live in the U.S. and you're thinking about moving here to Brazil, or even a medical issue for that matter, right? These are things you want to consider where you're moving, okay? Where I live now in São Paulo, there's an abundance of hospitals, doctors, both mental and physical. I had open heart surgery back in 2021. I had a quadruple bypass. I'm 63 years old. So of course, moving here, even my wife was like, oh, you know, this is where the hospitals are where you can go that are close, because it's important. So think about that if you're thinking about moving here. What about the medical? Okay, let's talk about the mental. You know, there are therapists, there are therapists that speak English. There are therapists that are bilingual. There are doctors that are bilingual. I see a cardiologist here that's very fluent in English. I have an appointment with them next week. I had an appointment with the pulmonary doctor that spoke English. So they are here. But when I say they are here, if you move to some of the smaller interior cities, you may run into a problem. When you're gonna move here, a couple of things you gotta consider, right? Household items. I decided not to bring anything. And then I started thinking about the whole complexity of it, and I decided not. I know some people in the social media group I'm in that did bring stuff. Those are things you want to consider, like how much stuff do I have? Do I really want to spend the money? Do you have pets? I have 2 dogs. I have an American Staffordshire that weighs almost 65 pounds, and then I have a blue tick coonhound mixed dog. She weighs 60 pounds. They're both females. I'm an avid dog lover. That was non-negotiable. If I couldn't bring my dogs, and there's one here and there's one right there, they're all around me. If I couldn't bring my dogs, I wasn't coming. Let's talk about residency. This one's near and dear to my heart because I'm going through it now. When you come here to Brazil, you can get a CPF number easy, you know. Of course, before you come here, you've got to get a visa now, which is no big deal. You can do it online. You get a CPF number, which is, like I said, an identification number that when you go to the store, you can give it to them. If you go to a doctor, they're definitely going to ask you for it. If you go to the hospital, you're definitely going to ask you for it. When you work on your residency, I highly recommend, and this is from my experience, that you hire an immigration lawyer. I will put the immigration lawyer that I hired in my bio here, the link. I'll put their link. There are many, many, many immigration lawyers. do your work, do your background check on them. So with the residency, Brazil is a lot of bureaucracy here. I went to the American consulate here in Sao Paulo, and I will tell you, those people are great. I've had the best experience at the American consulate. Now, my passport said Michel Still. My birth certificate says Michel Eugene Still. Eugene is my middle name. I've never ever used my middle name, ever, when I was in the U.S. I come here, and now it's a big problem, okay? I had to get, a long story short, 1 year later, I had to just get a new passport with my middle name. I went to the American consulate here in Sao Paulo, and I will tell you, those people are great. I've had the best experience at the American consulate. I've been to the Police Federal 3 times, and every time I've gone, there's something else they bring up. So whether you move to the Philippines, India, Brazil, France, which was one of my other thoughts when I was going to retire, you have to be a resilient person, because you're going to deal with a cultural shift. You're going to deal with a mental shift. You know, I still struggle sometimes when I'm here. And even when we're sitting and having lunch or dinner, and I'm around my beautiful family, right? And everybody's talking in Portuguese. Now they're making a point of translating and let me know, because I see them laugh and I see them interacting, right? And you start to feel lost. And I remember probably about 6 months ago, I was telling my wife, I said, I feel like I'm losing my identity. Because when you move here to Brazil, or any other country for that matter, right? You got to think about what you're leaving behind. I brought my mom here. I love my mom. I wasn't going to put her in an assisted living home. Like I said, right now I don't have any friends here. I still communicate with some of my friends in the U.S. I call them up. And then you come here on vacation, you decide, hey, this is really cool. I need a change. I'm tired of the U.S. economy. I'm tired of what's going on there. I want to just do something different, right? You come here, and then all of a sudden, your friends aren't here anymore. You have nobody to talk to, right? Culturally, it's different. The stores are different. Little things, even like shopping online. I'm gonna tell you something. I was a big shopper online, meaning I was having stuff sent to my house pretty regularly for my dogs, some stuff that I wanted. I play saxophone as a hobby. They do have a major online shopping retailer here that you can buy stuff, but the quality is not always the best, so those things, little things like that, you don't really think about, right? How it's going to affect you. And what I've heard is it takes a couple years to really adapt mentally to this kind of transition from living in the U.S. to living in probably pretty much every country, So those are some of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about in this initial video, just to kind of lay the groundwork. Now, like I said, I'm here. I have one friend that come visit me that I actually worked with for many years, because he's from Portugal. He's got family in Portugal. His wife's actually from here, Sao Paulo. So they visited not too long ago. Shout out to you, brother. You know who I'm talking about. It felt great to see him. I mean, I will eventually go back to the U.S. and visit. I've got grandchildren there. I have 4 grandchildren for my 2 kids, my 2 grown kids. So I definitely will go back to visit. It's just not something in the foreseeable future. The future right now, what does it hold for me? Well, I'm going to get my residency. We plan probably in the next year to move into the interior, into a more suburban area, not rural, but more suburban, where there's a little more space. Like I said, I'm in the city. Here in Sao Paulo, it's the nightlife. It's gritty. I mean, it's 24/7. But like I said, I just really wanted to give like a real from the beginning to where I'm at right now, because it's been about a year. I am enjoying it here. The transitions got a lot easier. I'm in love with my wife. I'm in love with the children. They love on my mom. You know, my mom's doing okay, you know, considering she turned 88 in January. We'll see you soon. Like I said, this is Michel still from Gringo Life Brazil. Thanks for joining. Like and subscribe. And I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.